What's up, beer geeks? I'm Chris Crowe.
I'm Chris Cohen.
And we are both advanced cicerones, and we're both beer scholars. And we are here today. We got our mitts on Boulevard Brewing's Kveik IPA. And we were kind of thinking, like, this was one of the most obvious marketing uses of Kveik IPA.
Yeah.
And Chris Cohen here has been into all things Kveik for a while now.
Yep, trying to spread that gospel.
Yeah, we wanted to taste it.
Yep.
And see what we think.
Yeah, usually places that use Kveik. Well, okay, so there was that moment a little while ago when Kveik was new. It's still totally new. But when it first kind of came out, if you want to call it came out, it's actually been around for freaking ever. But when these breweries got their hands on it, they started making some beer with them. They were experimenting with these different strains of Kveik. And I do say strains because I think most of them are like lab grown, like single strain. They were naming them things like, I don't know, Thor's Hammer or, Viking, whatever. But this one just straight up is like Kveik IPA. And it's been about, I'm going to say 3 years since the big hype happened. It was for 6 months, everybody was really freaking out about Kveik. What I don't understand is why everyone's still not freaking out about Kveik, because it is a revolutionary ingredient for big breweries that want to crank beer out really fast while saving money on energy use. I think that it's a game-changing yeast, and I think a lot of breweries are using it without saying so, which of course is fine. It's not like when people make any normal beer, they say, "Hey, we used Chico yeast," or "We used whatever yeast," right? It's not like they put it on the cans all the time, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, and hopefully this one's fun because, like you said, kind of in the spike of Kveik fermented beers, there was does it have to be distinctly Norwegian in style, or
do we need to use juniper?
That? Yeah, do we need to get the wooden barrels out and everything? And this one just seems to be an IPA fermented with a different yeast, so we can.
And I think a lot of breweries are doing it. Most of them are not naming it Kveik IPA. I've done a whole bunch of collab beers with various breweries, including Almanac, multiple collabs with them with Kveik strains, and I can just say this, absolutely fact. It makes a great IPA. It does killer biotransformation. It'll crank it out really quickly. I did a grain to glass IPA with Almanac that took about a week. I mean, maybe it was 9 days, but it was on draft at their tap room, basically a week after we mashed in.
Yeah, so just one batch, they're shaving 5 days off of your average batch of beer.
Dude, it was insane, and it was delicious. So anyway, I'm excited to try this, because I think that Kveik should be like this tidal wave that changes the whole beer industry.
Yeah, and I have, one hypothesis too is if you can't tell it's fermented with Kveik, then it's working.
Exactly. Yeah, let's give it a try. Let's see what we got here. So this is 2 months old.
Yeah, so,
So it should be in probably decent shape as long as it's been refrigerated.
Yeah. And it smells like classic IPA, to be honest.
Yeah, it does.
It is double strength. It's at 9% ABV, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be quite that big. But
Yeah, it has a characteristic that I find to be common when fermenting with Kveik strains. Not all of them, but most of them, and depending how you treat it and what kind of hops you use and this and that. But a big orangey flavor, like a candied orange kind of thing. And instantly when I smell this, I'm like, boom, there it is.
I was transported to orange marmalade, orange hard candy. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Which I think in the past I would have immediately associated with English beer.
Right.
Because I get that sometimes from English beer.
Yeah.
But it is very common with, in particular, I think I would say, with a bunch of the different strains, but I almost always get it with Hornindal.
Cool.
Which I believe... Did we determine that's what this was fermented with, or do we not know?
We don't know. I don't think we know.
Okay.
We'll have to...
we'll have to look that up.
Put it into the description or something.
I don't know. I'm calling it. I guess. Yeah. There's a dozen different strains or something.
I'm diving in. I wouldn't stake my entire reputation on it, but a cool thing I get from a lot of the Kveik bundles is almost like a gelatinous fruit estery character. Sometimes it's kind of strawberry. Sometimes it's more lychee.
Got it.
And that's under the hood here. There's something underneath all the citrus that's kind of like a
tropical,
maybe kiwi.
Yeah, gelatinous fruit. Lychee, kiwi. Yeah, and that's another thing that I get from a lot of Kveik strains is a big burst of tropical fruit, which is why, one of the reasons it's so freaking perfect for hazy IPAs, which is why I think a lot of breweries are using it and, just not putting it on the label because, again, fine. But it's a revolutionary ingredient and it just biotransforms like no one's business. It'll make, actually, this is not even that hazy. It'll make a very hazy IPA very happily.
Yeah, it seems well suited for that because no matter what it looks like, to use that kind of underlying lightly tropical character just as a boost, an aroma and flavor enhancer to whatever kind of your signature hazy IPA character is. Yeah. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not super interested in completely picking apart this particular beer as much as I am in talking about Kveik and how kind of stoked I am to see the name real big and in bold lights on the front of this can. So, yeah, here I'm a little closer. Yeah, there we go. Maybe we can even get it to focus. Nope. Maybe if we cover...
We promise it says Kveik IPA.
No, it's like I see faces. I will focus on the face. So yeah, this is really nice. Do you know if this is a regular release now or if it was a one-time deal?
I think it's a one-time deal.
We did no research before this.
Yeah, but we're just too excited.
Yeah, we were just let's crack this beer.
We know it's Kveik. Let's crack it.
Let's crack it on camera and see what happens.
But a brewery this big, like a big craft brewery, Boulevard.
Right.
I think I don't know if it's one time or intended to be a seasonal, but
I would suspect that. Well, they obviously did some test runs first, right? They're not going to do a national release, without doing some test batches. But I wonder if they're doing this to see what people think and give it a trial run. And I think we've actually just been talking about this over the last couple of days. We've been hanging out for the first time ever in person. We've hung out on Zoom quite a bit, but this is our first time, shaking each other's hands. And one thing I was saying about the whole Kveik thing is that I just completely lost my train of thought. What was I going to get at? Okay, it is back, and this time I'm just going to say it immediately. Okay, so here's the thing. Kveik is a revolutionary ingredient that can help these breweries, any brewery, make beer faster. So, all these breweries that are, crushing it, and they're like, oh my God, we're at capacity. What do we do now? We have to buy more equipment. Well, you don't really have to. You could just start using Kveik and turning beer over quicker. But the reason I think that a lot of breweries are iffy on it or are just not jumping in with both feet is because a lot of breweries have a house character. And the Kveik does have a pretty specific and different profile. It's gonna have this orangey flavor. So for instance, you get a beer from Anchor Brewing or Sierra Nevada or something like that. You can, I'm not saying I'm some superstar master who can always tell a beer is from Anchor or something like that. But I would say these places have pretty specific house characters and characteristics and for all their beers, across all the beers. And when you switch to a new yeast strain like Kveik, you are for sure, it's just going to be different. And you don't want to turn off your audience. So I think that's my guess.
And that's a risk some of them definitely don't want to take, right? Because a consumer, even an uneducated consumer, could taste it and be like, something's different, even if I can't put my finger on it. And it's just not this version of the beer.
Yeah.
Which can help explain why maybe some bigger flagship-oriented style breweries aren't making the switch.
Right.
But they're
testing things out.
To test it out.
They're testing it out. They're doing a national release. They're gauging people's interest. They're gauging their interest in whether they give a shit about the word Kveik, if it means anything to anyone. Do you like the flavor profile? Should we start moving in that direction, or should we just keep it going, right, the way we have been? Because one thing you can't do, especially if you're a big Boulevard level brewery, is all of a sudden all your beers taste slightly different. Yeah, you can't do that.
True.
And Kveik is if you ferment it at lower temperatures, it kind of acts more like a normal, more neutral ale yeast. But if you use it at those high temperatures, that is the thing that makes it special and gives it that advantage. It is going to crank out a bunch of ester.
Yeah.
Which is great for IPAs.
I'd be wondering I'd be curious what the feedback at Boulevard is on, like, do you think people were drawn to it saying Kveik IPA on the label, or
great label.
Do people have or preconceived notions about what that may or may not mean?
I really like this label. I'm also a fan of like picking apart label art because I like design. I'm a big fan of design. This is fun. It's got a bunch of like Norwegian-ish kind of Nordic stuff on it. It has skull on it, which is like cheers in Norwegian.
It's got penguins or puffers.
Puffins?
Puffins?
Are there puffins there? I don't really know that there are puffins there.
People are just like, let's do vaguely cold things.
Yeah. Anyway, it looks cute. I like it. Anyway, hopefully that worked out for Boulevard, because I would love to see more breweries like lean into it fully and be like, this is a Kveik fermented IPA. And by the way, this is a thing. Don't ever call something a Kveik. Like, there's no beer that is a Kveik. It's just fermented with a strain of Kveik. Like, it's a Kveik fermented whatever, right? I mean,
yeah.
So I'm glad to see this. I like that it says Kveik IPA. I've definitely heard tons of people say, like, it's a Kveik. That's just definitely the wrong usage of the term.
Yeah.
And anyway, this is pretty good. I mean, I'll just say, like, I would like this to have more bitterness. It's like really, I would say it's a little bit unbalanced, a little too sweet for me.
Maybe we got it a little late.
Totally. It's 2 months old.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, with all your experience with Kveik, that you're really getting the signature on this one?
I mean, if I got this in a blind tasting, would I call the yeast profile, the strain? Like, I mean, that's, that's really tough.
Especially when you're in citrus orange land, what's coming from the hops, what's a light ester from the yeast.
Yeah, I would say there are very few hops that get this orangey, right? I think, I'm not saying I could call this, but I'm saying certainly if someone gave me this and said, name a couple yeast strains you think this might have been made with, I would say Hornindal.
Nice. I think that's a win then, that they're both, because they're leaning into the character.
Exactly.
Here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a solid beer. An opinion I have about a lot of hazies is that they're a little too they're like lacking in bitterness. But otherwise, this is great. I love the flavor profile. I think that you can do really special things with Kveik, and I think combining it with different kinds of hops, you can really get all kinds of amazing tropical, crazy stuff going on. One of the beers I did with Almanac, we used a bunch of Sabro, right, with that coconut flavor, and we ended up with this it was like a freaking tiki double IPA. Yeah, it was so good. It was so good. I would love to see more of that stuff. So anyway, thanks Boulevard.
Yeah, thanks Boulevard. Thanks for watching and joining us. Just tasting through something unique and different.
Yeah, I don't think Beer Scholar's going to start doing a whole bunch of beer reviews or anything. That's not really what I'm necessarily interested in doing. But I do think that it's always cool to, people are always interested to watch someone who's like an advanced cicerone kind of break down a beer a little bit. So
yeah, and we got to keep our pulse on our ears on the pulse of what's going on.
We're going to keep our ears on that pulse.
Ears on the pulse,
not fingers, just ears.
Fingers on the trigger. We're just always going to be ready.
All right, we'll burn it up. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Boop.